up, JC Audits here. I wanted to touch on Olibob's post here. I think it's really important, and it sends a strong message, I think, to those who say, look, churches are closing, obviously Christianity is on the decline, religion is out, science is good, Christianity is anachronistic. Let's have a look at what a real Christian says about Christianity and the demise of certain churches. So Olibob has been a great support to this channel. Olibob's a Christian, and I've met him in person, and I can only say good things about him. He's everything you'd want in a person, in my opinion. I know he wouldn't say he's perfect or anything like that, and he's often highlighted his spelling as, my spelling isn't too good, or grammar, and editing it on the phone. He's as humble as you would, people aren't that humble anymore. Anyway, look, really, really human Christian, very kind in my opinion, and very trustworthy in what he says. He's very, very honest, and in my opinion supportive. He's been supportive with this channel, and Olibob, if you're listening, I just want to thank you again for your contribution. It means a lot to me. And thanks for just generally being supportive as well. Nothing to do with Christianity. I think you're generally a supportive person. I do appreciate it. And welcome any future contributions you make to the channel in your own time. Obviously, please don't feel you're pressurized to do it, because you've already done so much. So excuse me, we've both been talking about the decline of churches here, and you can see I've sort of, look, so you can see the original post. Yeah, it's a questionnaire. What can be done to boost church numbers in the UK? And he's come back and said he personally thinks Christianity is increasing. People are fed up with the New Age spiritualism because it doesn't lead. Sorry about that. Back again now. Olibob Olibob has said Christianity is increasing, and he goes on to say, so he's not saying that all churches are increasing. Like, he's saying certain churches are, certain churches are shrinking. Those who benefited from Christendom and the de facto Christian religion. So I think what he's saying with that, my interpretation of that is churches that are broad brush churches, maybe Anglican, maybe big Catholic churches, churches that have been, down the line, they've been imperialistic perhaps in their outlook, are definitely shrinking. Again, I might be putting words into Olibob's mouth, but this is my interpretation of what he said. So he's saying, I think, and I'm even taking it further now, and skewing it with my own interpretation, even more extremely. Churches that have put people to the sword in the past and killed them because of religion are shrinking now. So if you like, they're paying the price of what they've done. However, I think Olibob is saying certain types of charismatic and Pentecostal churches, forward-looking progressive churches, such as HTB. So I think that's I did look it up. Holy Trinity Brompton. I think that's a church in London, but it's more of a movement. Slightly charismatic, forward-looking churches. And he's saying the fresh expression movement churches. I don't quite know what it means, but I can only assume it means a sort of life breathing, sort of friendly, cosmopolitan and inclusive churches are growing. Okay, so he's saying, I don't know if that includes Hillsong type churches, but I can only assume it does. So those churches are growing. I can't comment on what church Olibob goes to himself. What kind of church I can assume, but that's for him to say. If he wants, I think he might be part of a forward-looking church, friendly, etc., progressive. So he's also saying many churches bought buildings and never engage with the local community. So, let's spend the money, let's not engage, let's just have our own little church and our own little den to worship God, and let's forget about the community. And he's gone on to say, because of that, they do not exist. So it's really quite brutal what he's saying, is churches that don't care about their local community die. I mean, it's here in black and white. I don't think that needs much interpretation. He's actually quite brutal in that sense. There's no such thing in his mind of a church that doesn't look after its community. So that's crucial in what Olibob says must not be forgotten. Now he says something interesting. Islam is growing. You might find an interesting book, Wind in the House of Islam. I think he's talking about the title of the book there. It says you can listen to it whilst you're driving. So so Islam is growing. So presumably by that I mean belief in Allah and the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. That religion is actually growing. However, and he doesn't really use the word however or but, he says that there's a record number of Muslims coming to faith, so coming to the Christian religion. So they're looking, they see that the Quran says that the Bible is true. To what extent that is actually true, I don't know. But traditionally, Muslims would have great respect for Jesus. Don't believe he's God, but believe he's a prophet. Prophet that came before Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And then they go on. ESA. That is, I think, one of the Muslim words for Jesus. It might be spelled slightly different or pronounced slightly different than that. And Jesus, of course, is an approximation of a Hebrew name, and we're not quite sure of the Hebrew name of the Son of God, the Son of Mary, the Virgin Mary. I don't think anyone is absolutely sure what his Hebrew name was, because I think Jesus or corresponds to various Hebrew names, and it wasn't entirely clear. I think that there is a consensus, but no actual, documented fact of what his real name was. But maybe that's a sign that what's in a name. But what Jesus did was more important than his actual name. We can argue, or I could argue. So Olibob is saying that a lot of Muslims read the Bible and then convert, and then move, if you like, backwards in time from Islam. Of course, Islam is a more modern religion than Christianity. I think it was founded around in the 600s, when Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was alive. Yeah, and then of course came the Umayyad dynasty, one of the most successful dynasties in terms of square miles covered in the whole of the history of this planet Earth. Brutal, if you like, in the sense that they like raped and pillaged. I don't know to what extent they raped actually, but probably pillaged and intimidated their way across most of the planet, most of the northern hemisphere for sure. I think going as far as France and deep into China, unless I'm mistaken, by the podcast that I've been listening to. Plug them, the rest is history, if you want to listen to that. But I think they're doing something about the history of Islam at the moment. So, yeah. Going back to what Olibob is saying, he's saying, I think the church is growing fast in many other countries. So let's forget about the UK for a moment. Other countries, maybe African countries, some African countries, the church is growing. I've spoken to people that have said that they lived in Africa, and they said actually the church is maybe not too good. That some of their local pastors are saying give more money to the church, and people become a bit disillusioned with that. So maybe I don't know. I'm just putting two and two together, because the rule of law generally speaking, is slightly less in Africa than many countries of Africa. The judicial system is not as strong as here in the UK. Therefore, there's more corruption. Life is slightly more cheaper in a crime sort of sense, if you like, and the church also might reflect that, and there might be more corruption and more tendencies of pastors, priests, etc., to steal money from their congregation, and therefore adding to the disillusion. And this actual person, and I mentioned it before on this channel, he's gone on to say things like, Jesus won't intervene in the affairs of men. It's up to us to lobby our politicians and to make the change, because essentially God has given us free will, and we need to work for ourselves. We need to get ourselves out of this mess and change our society. And I think Olibob has said some words to that effect in the fact that Olibob himself, I believe, does petition, if not government, then local government, for change. And I find that absolutely admirable of him, and I would like to emulate him in some sense. So Olibob is saying, I primarily work with non-Christians, which is interesting. I think Olibob has said on this channel that he works for a charity. I think it's Christians Against Poverty, and so he's probably well caught up in the cost of living crisis and helping people, maybe through with their finances or some other help, maybe maybe food, etc. I think that's more for Olibob to say if he wants. Um, there's a desire from people to be engaged with a community and for spirituality. So I think that's really important. People gravitate sometimes towards religions because of a sense of community. That's something that Christianity is very big on, and churches are big on, should be big on community, brotherhood, fellowship, as in meeting with each other, socializing, talking about God, the way to live life well. I think churches do that very well, and I like to think mosques would do that as well, just as well. Come back to me if you don't think that's the case. And for spirituality, there's a reason humanist churches shut. So humanist churches, I think that's more the rituals without the God. So it's perhaps more reliant on the scientific, reasoning, and also the method, scientific method. All things can be falsifiable, and knowledge is constantly evolving. Where religions mostly say, look, here's the law, the written law from God in the Bible, and then it's usually interpreted by an oral sort of tradition. With the Jews, it was the Talmud, interpretation of the Torah, and then the Christians. Sorry, have I got that wrong? I think I have. Yeah, I think I'm confusing my religions there. So with the Muslims, it is the Quran, and then the Talmud, and then no, I did get it right, I think. So with the Muslims, it's the Quran and the Hadith, and then the Jews, it's the Torah and the Talmud. And I think with the Christians, it's slightly different. I think, unless I'm much mistaken, there isn't so much of an oral interpretation of the written text. That compares to the Talmud and the Hadith in that respect. Again, I might be completely wrong. I'm a lay, absolutely lay person. Yeah. And some of you thinking, I've never heard such excrement issue from a podcaster's mouth. And you might not be wrong. Okay, but at the end of the day, it's my channel, and I can talk about pretty much what I want. And let my views and subscribes drop because of it. That's out of my control, or it's beyond what I want to control at the moment. So the last sentence here from Olibob. Critical, absolutely critical. He's saying, without a God in churches, i.e., the humanist God, there's no point in ritual. He's saying the aspect of the divine is powerful. So to have a almighty force, and I know Oliver would say outside of yourself, is a very powerful thing. Powerful, maybe, / empowering. Then we all feel weak from time to time, and would it be nice to think that we have an all-powerful source, benign and on our side, that's outside of ourselves, and potentially that we can communicate with and have a relationship with, and we believe that could intercede on our behalf. Isn't that an empowering thing? Again, I might be completely wrong in why Olibob thinks that this divine is powerful. I'm not in his shoes. I don't know why he's saying the divine is powerful. Maybe he wants to elaborate on why he believes the divine is powerful, what powerful means to him. Um, I just thank Olibob, again for his contributions. It's for me a rare look into the mind of a real Christian. This is no fake Christian. This is an absolutely bona fide, in my opinion. And I'm not. You'd say, who you qualified to judge. You can't see into Olibob's heart. Well, I can kind of get a feel for him as a person, a little feel for him, and I believe he's absolutely 100% genuine in what he says and what he believes, and not only that, in what he does. It's one thing to say it and not act on it. Olibob is, he lives and breathes what he believes, in my opinion. He's not just a man of words, he's a man of action. And he would argue that, I'm not all that, what you make me out to be. I'm not elevating you into a position above human. I hope you understand that. Olibob is human as anyone else. What I'm trying to say is that he's acting on his beliefs, and those beliefs are very, very positive, very, very, societally sort of focused, if you like. He wants to help his fellow man, regardless whether they're, non-Christian and potentially going to hell. That doesn't matter to him. He just wants to help. Maybe it doesn't matter to him. Maybe it pains him that these people might not know Christ ever. I don't know. Can't speak for him.